Marc Dunkelman is a fellow in international and public affairs at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. In his recent book, Why Nothing Works, he explores the barriers to building the infrastructure that could match the scale of what we need as a country. Dunkelman sat down with John Switalski, executive director of Rebuild SoCal Partnership, to talk about our response to the devastating fires and the policies we need to rebuild efficiently.
The title of your book is provocative, Why Nothing Works. Can you tell us what isn't working and why not?
It used to be that America could do big things. We built the interstate highway system. We did NASA. We built housing all over the country. We built enormous water systems and dams. We're not building big things anymore. That's because we've created a system where there are so many vetoes. No one has the authority to sort of say, here are a whole bunch of costs and benefits to doing this big thing. I will weigh them against each other and make a decision. And that's because of reforms that we've made basically since the 1960s and 1970s.
In Los Angeles, we are now rebuilding in the communities of Altadena and Pacific Palisades. We hear that the cleanup is being done efficiently. Does it seem like that kind of efficiency is only done in time of emergency?
The other major example of that is rebuilding of 95 in Pennsylvania after it collapsed. There was a moment in time when people with too much discretionary power abused it and did things to people who were powerless that were outrageous, but we've now overcorrected. And so in too many cases, absent a crisis, you've got a situation where it's almost impossible to get good projects done.
A central critique in your book is how we approach infrastructure as a society. Why is that?
We built up a series of checks within the system that now are so oppressive that even when someone comes with a good project that almost no one can object to, someone will find an objection. Because at root, our movement is the one that wants to do big things for working people, and we're not able to accomplish that. So we are culpable for our own frustration.
You argue in your book that people don't like concentration of power. Can you talk about how that impacts infrastructure?
And then we got to a point in the 1960s, 1970s, where we saw that the people who had been empowered to make decisions were making bad decisions. The lesson that progressives took from that was that powerful individuals couldn't be trusted. But if you're going to do a big project, there are going to be costs and benefits, and someone needs to be able to weigh them. We need to make it so that everyone has a voice, but that no one has a veto.
What happens to a society that can no longer build what it needs?
We're in a situation right now where we can't build what needs to be built. We were in a similar situation at the turn of the 20th century. Corporate titans and robber barons, and they stopped projects from happening. And eventually, the public interest rose up and said, no, we're going to empower someone to make these decisions. But the core elements are the same. We've got too many vetoes in the system. And if we're going to get things done, we're going to need to empower someone to make these decisions.
We are going through a period of government reform in Southern California. What advice can you give to streamline the bureaucracy?
Even if I don't get the outcome that I want, what would be a process that would make me feel as though my concerns were heard and I will accept the outcome at the end of the day? As we re-engage the public and they see that the government does work, there will be sort of a virtuous cycle of people saying, I understand how that worked. I can imagine giving government power to do more in the future. We need to set up systems through charter changes, through changes of law, through changes in the way we do litigation that make it clear to people who ultimately has the power to choose.
What new story do we need to tell so that people realize that infrastructure projects can be built and have a positive impact on their lives?
The projects to clean up parts of Southern California that burned 6 months ago, that's an efficient, effective use of public power. And that people see that as the norm. The people that they look to solve those problems are efficient, effective government bureaucracies that can get through all the objections and get us to the best outcome. And so I think that's a slow process of our rediscovering the power of government to do good.
What are the costs of infrastructures in other modern countries compared to the United States?
What's so remarkable in the United States is that our infrastructure is orders of magnitude more expensive than other places that are also developed. The distinction is about the process we use to make decisions, these soft costs, and it's something that we really need to grapple with.
We're cleaning up the fires in LA. We're rebuilding. What general advice do you have?
LA's going through this torturous period where you're trying to rebuild from these devastating fires. And the challenge for us now is to say, in a moment of deep communal need, can we have the wherewithal to make decisions expeditiously? And ultimately, most everyone has the community's best interest in mind, but people have different ideas about the way moving forward. And the thing that you need is ultimately to have someone be able to make the decision of which way we're going to go.